find you on Facebook, but I don't know how to do that.
Torah Direct.
What?
Torah Direct. Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning, those that are here, those that are there, those that are everywhere. We are holding on chapter 20 of Tanya.
Those who are already late.
Yeah, people are always late. That's life. Jews are late. We're holding on chapter 20, which is page 84, 85 in your book, your paper. So, Baruch Hashem, we're trucking along. We're getting there. What's the rush? The Alter Rebbe says, it's well known that the commandments and the warnings concerning idolatry, which are contained in the first two commandments of the 10 commandments, I am, and you shall not have any other gods, comprised of the entire Torah. So that was actually said by God Himself, as the Gemara says that the Torah Tziva Lanu Moshe to Torah. You take the word Torah, you go to 612, 611. I mean, the word Torah goes up to 611, and because the 6 and 11 commandments were said by God through Moshe Rabbeinu, and the two commandments, 12th and the 13th, the Jewish people heard the commandment from God Himself. Right, each commandment, correct. So they heard it from God Himself. I am God, your God, who took you out of Egypt, and you shall not have any other gods. So why were these two commandments heard by God Himself? Because in these two commandments, you have all the commandments of the Torah. I am God, your God is a concept of the concept of all the positive commandments. Since I'm God, your God. So a person should want to have a relationship with God. A person should want to have a connection to God. And a mitzvah commandment is a concept of connection. And you shall not have any other God is in everything that's negative. In every negative situation, especially 365 negative commandments, is the concept of having another God. Whether it's bowing down physically to an idol, or whether it's any commandment to tell you shall not talk evil talk, you should not lie, is the same concept. So the concept of bowing down to an idol, we all can comprehend. It's this concept that I'm showing open reverence to another deity, God forbid, which we all understand, and Jews throughout history are ready to give their life up for this concept not to worship an idol. But seemingly we have a more difficulty when it comes to other commandments to be ready to give our life for it. Therefore, we should realize that the truth is every other commandment of the Torah is a command by God. And any negative commandment that a person does ultimately goes under the category of you shall not have other gods. That's it. So that's why even the 10 commandments where it says you shouldn't steal, a Jew should not steal, not only because it's not the right thing to do, and a person should not be a ganef, should not steal, but a person should not steal because he also breaks God's command, you shall not steal. So therefore, in a practical way, if a person does steal, God forbid, then he has to repay, self-understood. He stole something for somebody, he needs to repay him. But that's not enough. He needs to do tshuva. He needs to do repentance. He has to have God forgiveness for stealing. Because he did an Aveda, he did a sin, God forbid, between him and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He did something negative. And automatically he needs to be able to fix that situation. So really the truth is, the common denominator of the positive and negative commandments is all one concept. It's a concept of God. The connection to God and disconnection of godness. It's all about a relationship, really. It's a relationship in any aspect of any relationship that you have with somebody else. It's all about the small things usually. It's not about nobody hurts each other in a big way, but we hurt each other in small ways. In the way we speak to each other, in the way we maybe respond to one another. And that is important to a relationship just as much as the big things are important to a relationship. Self-understood. And it all based on this relationship that we have with each other, with our spouses, with God. So for the commandment, I am God, your God, contains all the 248 positive commandments. Well, the commandment you shall not have contains all the 365 prohibitions. That is why we heard them, I am, and you shall not, directly from the Almighty. That's the Torah says that these two commandments we heard straight from God. Yeah.
So why did Hashem say that at the very end of the 613 instead of the beginning? Somehow it
It's the
makes no
10th
sense to
commandment.
me.
How's that the end?
You said 611, and then the last two.
I didn't say that. The first two. The first two. I'm sorry. The first two. I am God, your God. You shall not have any other gods. So the Almighty, as the sages says, because these two are the sum total of the whole Torah. So if you have these two, you understand everything. Now you look in the Gemara, the Gemara says, Bo Chavakuk, a great prophet, he says, Midalachas, really, he says there's one concept, and that is God. That's it. If you understand that concept, that there's a God, as Alter Rebbe is going to go into this concept, the concept that there's a God. What is the concept of God and the oneness of God? We all can believe in God. That's easy. Nobody has to be a genius to believe in God. But then there's the concept of Achdas Havaya, the aspect of the oneness of God. Not I believe in him as something that's far away or something that's very powerful, but I believe him because he's right here, because he's actually one with everything that I do. And that's a whole different concept. So belief doesn't have to have too much knowledge, but Achdas Hashem needs to have a little bit of knowledge. Oneness of God needs to have a little bit of contemplation and to comprehend this concept in the concept of one, Echad. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. You have two expressions, Echad umiyuchad. You have also Echad umiyuchad. God is one and unique. What does it mean that God is one and unique? Because the oneness of God is totally unique. There's no concept of unity and oneness but by God, because everything in the world and everything that we have in creation is separation, is division. And the question is, how divided are we? How much divided are we? And it's a difficult thing. You see in the world at large that this is not an easy thing to bring even two thoughts. Forget about two people, two philosophies. How do you bring philosophies together? They used to give free choice for people to think different. How do you bring them together? You can scream for today to the motor to knock somebody else. It's not going to change his philosophy. And you have such a conflict of philosophies that it brings down to the conflict of physicality. People kill each other based on philosophies, on their philosophies. So we have to understand the concept of oneness. So how do we understand even the concept of oneness? Eibishter wants that there should be unity in the world. And how do you bring unity when two people think different? And it's not only that they think different, they believe different, and they live different. And nevertheless, the Eibishter wanted that there should be a unity between these two entities.
The answer is the Mashiach.
No,
No?
that's not the answer. The answer has to bring Mashiach.
That's what I'm saying. Or if you-
No, we have to bring Mashiach. We have to try to bring unity in the world, and that will bring Mashiach, which will ultimately bring the ultimate unity. But there's no unity. The world is disunified.
So,
What?
bring unity. So,
The truth is, you have to bring unity between your body and your soul. There's a big separation between your body and soul, between the philosophy of the body and the soul, because of there's a big difference between what the soul's philosophy is and what the body's philosophy is. So how do you bring these two philosophies together? How do you unite the philosophy of the soul and the philosophy of the body. You have to go far and far in this conflict of interest, in this conflicts between philosophies, the philosophy of the soul and the philosophy of the body, that are openly contradicting one another, and sometimes in a major battle with one another, between the body and the soul. The soul has one agenda, the body has another agenda, and they are in total conflict. Sometimes they make peace and they say, you go, you do yours, and I'll do mine. So I'll give you an hour a day, go daven, because I'm hate. But after that hour, we're going to play. So that's not true unity. That's not true unity when imagine a family say, okay, you go to shul, I'll stay home. No, we go to shul together, hopefully. We do things together. We don't have two people living in a house and each one does their own thing. No, we come together as different philosophies, maybe different ways of life, but how do we work this thing out together? And then we have unity. Then we have true concept of coming together and being as one. So really, humans need to learn this, and the Alter Rebbe is going to try to teach us this, even though it's a very difficult subject. Because the biggest problem in the world is relationships. That's the biggest dilemma in the world at large. Whether it's whether it's spouse relationship, whether it's family relationships, whether it's community relationships. It's a big struggle in the world today at large. Relationships between countries. Look what's going on in the world, right? So this is the real problem in the world at large, and it started off right away. Cain killed Abel, right? Two different philosophies. They had actually two different. They worked in two different fields of the world. The Gemara says one was a man of the field. One was a man of things that are animalistic, the animals, and there were two different philosophies. What's greater? What is greater? The earth is greater. Vegetation, animals are greater. What is greater? And each one thought that thing was greater, and they couldn't live with the other. Really, the truth is they cannot live with one another. They cannot live without each other. I mean, the animal and vegetation needs the earth, and what is the earth without animal and vegetation and humans? There's no live in a desert. What is the purpose? What is the great thing of a desert? That's why the only thing that can transform a desert is the Torah that was given in a desert. The Torah was given in the ultimate aspect of emptiness and in a place of nothingness, no vegetation, thus sand, earth. And the Torah is given in that kind of a space. Why? Because the Torah can transform the desert. The Torah can make a desert into blossom, which it did. The desert blossomed for 40 years, and the Jewish people were in the desert. It blossomed. So in order to, the Alter Rebbe says, in order to elucidate this matter clearly, we must first briefly refer to the subject and the essence of unity. This is going to be the subject. It's going to be over the next chapters. The Holy One, the unity of the Holy One, blessed be He, who is called one and unique. And all believe that He is all alone. Exactly as He was before the world was created, when there was naught beside Him, as is written, you were the same before the world was created. The world was created. You are the same since the world has been created. The uniqueness of God. That the truth is, that the Rambam says, he explains it, that there's only one unity in the world, which is God. Everything else, if you stand creation cannot be unified. You can break the atom. Question is, can you bring them together? Create a big boom. So two different physical things. Can you break this table? Can these two tables come at one? Can two human beings come one? Is it possible? Is it physically possible? Two things to become one. It's impossible. It's impossible. The only thing where it's possible, you could say in the spiritual worlds, where it's more possible, the concept of unity, but even in the spiritual worlds, if spirituality is a created entity, so like the example, the malachim, the angels, each angel has its own identity. Each angel has its own reality. So therefore, the angel of mercy is the angel of mercy, and the angel of chesed, of kindness, is the angel of kindness. So these are spiritual entities. Nevertheless, you have Malach Michal and Malach Gavriel. Malach Michal, the angel of the Michal, is the angels of mercy, and the angels of Gavriel, the angels of severity. So these are spiritual entities that have separate identities. The truth is, our neshamas are spiritual entities, and nevertheless, my neshama is not your neshama. Your neshama is not mine. And God forbid you have dibuk and neshamas. If one neshama comes part of another neshama, you have a concept of a dibuk in the Torah, right? So you dibuk, right? Dibuk. You ever heard the stories of the dibuk, where a soul cleaves to another soul? Do you have that concept in the Torah? The soul cleaves to another soul. I don't know. That sounds like ghostly, but it's godly concepts. They're spiritual concepts. But nevertheless, even though they're spiritual concepts, they are ultimately to God a physical reality. Because God, you cannot even put him in the dimension of even spirituality. Can't say God is spiritual. So God is a concept that's above, that everything is created, whether it's spiritual, whether it's physical, whether it's souls, whether it's angels, whether it's a human being, whether it's a table. To God, it's all concept of creation. So that you understand why Ani Hashem lo yishanisi. I am God who does not change. Because everything in your imagination that can be a concept of spirituality and physicality is ultimately to God a creation. And God is the creator. He's not a creation, he's the creator.
So you're saying that everything is separate, right? But at the same time, everything is also connected.
It's only connected because of one concept. It's only connected because of God. It's not connected in any other physical way. There's no other way that it can be connected besides God. That's why it says, if you take ish v'isha, take the concept of a man and a woman, ish is aleph yud shin. Aleph yud shin. A isha is aleph shin hey. So what's the difference between an ish, a man, which is aleph yud shin, that's how you write in English, and a isha, which is aleph shin hey? The difference is the yud in the man and the hey in the ish, in the woman. The two letters aleph shin is equal, the same thing. What's yud and hey? Yud and hey is the name of God. Yud K. So you take the yud K out of the situation, take the yud K out of the equation. What do you have? Fire and fire. Take the yud K out of the situation. You have two fires that are coming together. What's going to happen? You're going to have an explosion. We always need to keep God in the middle. So too, when you have two Jews coming together, three opinions. How do you bring these two Jews together? How do you bring the two humans together? You truly need to have God. Not the way you understand God, not the way you comprehend it. Most of us say, yeah, I got God. I got God the way I comprehend it, and you should also comprehend it that way. Right? And if you don't comprehend it that way, I'm gonna kill you. So I don't like you. No. If we have true God, then there's unity. Because God is unity. So if we truly have the concept of God, then there's no different. Then we have to be able to handle each other. We have to be able to not only handle each other, we have to be able to complement each other. So where there is disunity, there's no God. Right? The Hebrew says, my vessel, since I am unity, since I'm the true concept of unity, my vessel is only unity. Anything else that is disunity is not me, is the opposite of me. And this is what humanity needs to learn. Slowly they're learning it. But Jewish people need to learn also. As Jewish people, we learn the Torah. Is the Torah who came to the world to bring shalom, to bring peace between the spiritual and the physical, unity between the physical and the spiritual, and unity between the physical and the physical, which is an unbelievable situation. I said yesterday, deep concept that Rebbe writes. We'll see, we're there. So, the concept of the Eibush says, I'm God, your God, who took you out of Mitzrayim. And why? And why does he say he wanted to say the creation of the world? Because to us, it's the creation of the world is beyond our imagination. It's a concept of total above nature. Creating something from nothing is totally above human comprehension. And that's why it's a very small part of the Torah, the whole creation, which everybody's trying to figure out. And the Torah is 30 verses. It's not too much involved because creation is above human understanding. Because Eibush created the world from nothing, as he just said. Before you, the world was nothing, and therefore, if you understand that Eibush created the world from nothing, therefore you understand that the world is nothing still today. There's no difference by God between the creation and before creation, after creation, because the world was nothing before creation, the world is nothing at this present time. What's the difference? What's the difference? It's to us, because once God created the world in a natural kind of a form. 6 days a week, and there's light and dark, and there's good and bad, and there's everything in the world. That's it. He created the world. Day and night will not change. There'll be 24 hours in a day. There's not going to be 25 hours in a day. There's going to be summer, winter, not in Florida, summer, winter, spring. There's going to be different, the world's going to go on. As the Gemara says, every generation, what is the most thing that people talk about, even today? Doomsday. The world's coming to an end. Every generation, it's not new. Every generation said the world's coming to an end. That's it, finished. Global warming, it's done. The world's over in 10 years. It's gone. The world's disappeared. Comes the Torah and says, my friends, the world is never going to come to an end. Yema v'layla lo yishbaisu. That's why the Gemara is like laughing. He's saying every generation the world's coming to an end, and the world keeps on going. Right? The world keeps on going. The world's didn't come to an end. The moon didn't fall down. The sun didn't come down and destroy the world. It doesn't, because the Eibush just says it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Couple billion years.
No, lo yishbaisu. Doesn't, but God is no difference between 1 million, 1 billion, or 500, 5,000. The Eibush says, lo yishbaisu, it's a pasuk in the Torah. The Eibush is not going to destroy the world. So the Rebbe would say the will can shuckle, the will can shake, but the will cannot. The Eibush, God said He's not going to destroy the world. Not going to destroy the world. But but once He created this Olam HaTachton, this world in the Torah, He says He's not going to destroy this world. It's finished. That's it. That's a pasuk in the Torah that was said thousands of years ago. It hasn't changed. So as I said, the Gemara says every generation the Eibush says He's going to destroy it, and then He proves He's not going to. The world says He's going to destroy it. Humans say the world's coming to an end, and God says, "I run the world. So whatever I want is going to happen." But what about Yetzias Mitzrayim? What about the concept of going out of Egypt? Going out of Egypt is a very important thing to us, to each and every one of us, because that's in the nature of the world. The Eibush created the world, a natural world, and how did the world take a natural world? That what is the human? What is even Darwin, whatever said here? That the fittest, right? The big one eat the small one, right? The strongest, fittest survives. The weak ones disappear, and that's how the world took it. And they take it sometimes now, even till today. The concept of Mitzrayim was that they were Moshe B'Kippah. The king of Egypt was a king, and he was a powerful nation who ruled over others. That was his. That's what that proved, right? The Gemara says not even a fly left Egypt without the Pharaoh knowing it. And here God took thousands and millions of Jews out of Mitzrayim. So what did God show? That even though I created nature, and I created the world and the natural world, and the Pharaoh is the Pharaoh. Even God says to Moshe, respect the Pharaoh. Don't think that the Pharaoh is nobody. He's a Pharaoh. And I created the world in this natural phenomenon. That's going to be a Pharaoh. That's like we say in the Haggadah. God created the world. That's going to be the hatred of Jews. It's a natural phenomena. It's not something. It's in the nature of the world that there's always going to be a Haman in the system, right? In every generation, there's somebody who wants to destroy the Jewish nation. It's nothing new. The Jewish people shouldn't be shocked. It's until Mashiach comes. It's in the system, so to say. It's part of the system. So you can even have in America today, you have those who hate in the Congress, those who hate Jews openly. Yeah, it's in the system. It's part of the DNA of even democracy, even a wonderful country as this. So you have hatred. It's in the system. But nevertheless, a Jew has to realize that even within nature, the Eibishter still controls nature. That within nature, even in Mitzrayim, you're in a confinement. You're in a natural confinement. How are you going to get out of it? You're going to say you're never going to get out of it. It's not going to happen. Nature doesn't change that easy. Things don't change. It takes months. It takes years. It's never going to happen. The Eibishter says no. I take your head of fine, like a blink of an eye. Even within nature, I can transform nature. I haven't taken away my power within nature. I haven't done that. And therefore, a Jew believes that every day can go out on Mitzrayim. Every day, today, we can go out. So even you say, how is that possible? It's take a long time. We have to change things. Things have to be different. No, it doesn't. Because the Eibishter is in nature, as he is above nature. That's the Nechi Hashem Elokecha. Nechi Hashem Elokecha is, I believe, God's right here in the natural world. I don't have to become supernatural. I don't have to become godly to be connected to God and to believe in God. I can be a human being. I can even be a sinner. I can be whoever I am, and I can still have a true unity with God. I don't have to be perfect to have a unity with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I don't. It's a fallacy. It's a wrong concept. And that's why it says, ask yourself, coming to Pesach, when the Jews went out of Mitzrayim, when God chose the Jewish nation, did they have any mitzvahs? Did they do any mitzvahs? They didn't. They had two mitzvahs. The bris milah and the sacrifice had two mitzvahs. They had two mitzvahs. To circumcise himself was only men, and to bring the korban Pesach. That's it. Two mitzvahs. That's it. That's why you say in the Haggadah, the God wallowed in your bloods, the blood of milah and the blood of the circumcised of the korban Pesach. That's it. Two mitzvahs.
So I thought also that wasn't a mitzvah that they dressed. They kept their dress.
That's not a mitzvah. Where's that a mitzvah? In those things, there's no mitzvah to dress a certain way. There's no mitzvah to talk a certain way. There's no mitzvah to have your certain name. There's no such mitzvah. That's the greatness of the Jews. They did certain things in their lives. But it's not a mitzvah.
Wasn't there also a mitzvah to develop the calendar?
Oh, very good. Yeah. Sorry, you're 100% right. Smart Jew. We read it yesterday in the show. Correct. But that really wasn't a mitzvah for the Jewish people. That was a mitzvah to the court. That was Moshe Rabbeinu. That was his mitzvah. So you're right, but it was not a mitzvah on every Jew. It was a mitzvah to the court to establish the month. So Moshe Rabbeinu established the first month. That was his mitzvah to do. But ultimately, the courts established the korban Pesach or circumcision is a mitzvah on every child, and whether he's a part of the court, or whether he's Moshe Rabbeinu's child, or whether he's Alma Buk's child. So you have this mitzvah on every single Jew. So the one didn't have any mitzvahs, right? You would think the Eibishter, when she chooses a Jewish nation, is by Matan Torah. He should have chosen the Jewish nation by the giving of the Torah. When the Jewish people took upon themselves the whole Torah, okay, you became my nation. comes the Torah, and it says it doesn't say it in that kind of way. The Torah chooses the Jews not because of the mitzvah. Actually, he chose the Jews. He gave the Jews those two mitzvahs because of the angels. The Gemara says the angels are saying, how do we see the differentiation between a Jew and a non-Jew? So they said, okay, we'll give him two mitzvahs. If the angels wouldn't have said anything, then the angel would chose us because of who we are, not because of what we do. Because that is true free choice in what we are, not what we do.
I learned always that the Jews were free from Mitzrayim because of their dress and their language. So
The Jews merited. I mean, the Jews went above, beyond. They had no mitzvahs, and they connected in their way. That they didn't change their names and they didn't change the garments, which is actually, it's not clearly. It actually doesn't mention about garments. It's interesting. A guy showed it to me that when you look in the locations, that you see that they didn't change their name, and they didn't change their language. They spoke Hebrew, and they didn't change their names. But you don't find the concept of the garments, because it's interesting. It's a fascinating thing that they mention garments, which is mentioned, but not. There's no source to the garments. Actually, it's interesting. It's a guy wrote a person wrote a guy showed me a person wrote a whole thesis on this garment business, which it doesn't really say anywhere the garments. If you go to original sources, it mentions that they didn't change their names and they didn't change their language, but it doesn't mention the garment because it contradicts a little bit the Torah itself, because the Torah says, tell the women that they should borrow their garments.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you do with that? Right, to go and ask their friends, the Egyptians, for the garments. So what do you do with that verse? Seeming like God wasn't worried about the garments that much. So whatever. I don't know. Again, the garments, as I said, somebody gave me. I can find it. I mean, a whole 100 pages where did the concept of garments came from, and really it's they don't find it in the original writings of the Talmud or the concept of garments, whatever. But that's a separate issue. But again, it was not a mitzvah. It was not a mitzvah. There's no mitzvah to have a Jewish name. There's no such thing, a mitzvah in the Torah. It's not one of the 613 commandments. You shall have a Jewish name. There's no mitzvah in the Torah that you need to wear. You need to be sneersdik. That's a mitzvah. But what kind of clothes you should wear? There's no mitzvah in the Torah that you should speak Hebrew. There's not a mitzvah. Right? Even in halacha, you can daven in English. Whatever. But selfless, you should know Hebrew. I'm not taking it away. And you should have a Jewish name. And you should whatever. By Chassidim, we have certain garments that we do. That's that's how it continued till this generation. We didn't change our garments. Same concept. Why do we still wear the kapota and the shtreimel? Some people, because there was a garment that they took upon themselves hundreds of years ago to wear, so they don't change their garment.
Polish noblemen.
Polish and Hungarian noble, whatever. But the great sages, it was not like stam people put on it. It was established like Baal Shem Tov. There was great tzaddikim who established this concept that they should wear those garments. It was not just regular people who let's start wearing nice garments. Because most of them were poor. Why would they want to be like the noblemen of that time? Why would the Jews in the time in the Poland 1,000 years ago want to wear garments of the noblemen? Why would they want to do that? There were great tzaddikim who established those garments. It was not the simple people who established those garments. So it was established by great tzaddikim that generation, and we continue to wear that garment. Not everybody does that. Chassidim continue to wear the garment. Well, let's go back to God. I don't know how we got into the garments, but okay. No, so God, the point, that's going back to where I was thinking. So the Eibishter said, that a Jew has to realize that even though God created nature, and it's a creation by God, nature is a creation by God, and seemingly nature is something that is not easily transformed. And as the Gemara says, "Ein seim chalal nes," you don't rely on miracles. It's not the way God wanted that you should live life hoping for a miracle or relying on a miracle. No, you don't do that. A Jew has to be able to see the miracle within nature. He has to be able to see that the Pharaoh gives permission to go out of Egypt. Not right. If God wanted to take the Jews out of Egypt, he could have sent them out of Egypt.
I wonder what happened. You're muted, Paul. I think Rabbi, yeah.
There, I'm unmuted.
Yeah, I wonder what happened. I think he's gonna have to reboot.
Can you? Did it happen to everybody, or is it just me? I can't see him.
No, it happened to me too. That's
Oh,
why I
okay.
said I wondered what happened.
All right. Yeah, he stopped, and then it was
We might have to sign off and go back on.
okay. I'll try that.
Yeah.
Leaving meeting.